The busy news week keeps getting busier. Yesterday it was announced that Stewart-Haas Racing would shut down, sell all 4 of their Cup Series charters, and there were reports as to who was going to obtain those charters, and one of those teams was Front Row Motorsports. Well, now it's official. Front Row Motorsports will be getting a 3rd charter. They will be expanding to a 3rd team, so we're going to talk about that, talk about who could potentially drive those cars, and of course, any other details we need to discuss. But the first important thing is the official statement from Front Row Motorsports owner Bob Jenkins and general manager Jerry Freese. We have a very positive outlook on the future of NASCAR, and as the sport plans for success, so do we. Today, that means having a plan for expanding back to 3 cars in the NASCAR Cup Series. I always have the vision to continue to grow and improve our team, and that commitment and desire never changes. I am committed to the sport and its passionate fans and partners. That is from the owner, Bob Jenkins. Then from the general manager, Jerry Freese. Starting a new team from scratch is always a challenge, but with the opportunities in front of us, the talent we have in our leadership, and a bit of a runway to get there, I am confident that we can produce 3 competitive programs out of the box for the 2025 season. We haven't lost sight of what our goals for 2024 are to get our teams into the playoffs for both series. If we can keep up the speed on track and have a little bit of luck to come our way, we can achieve our objectives. A lot of change coming to Front Row Motorsports just in the last few months alone. At the beginning of the season, it was announced that they were going to be a Tier 1 team with Ford, meaning they would get, top tier resources and information from Ford, them, and Penske. And of course, it was Stewart-Haas Racing. Stewart-Haas Racing's deal with Ford was up at the end of the year. They had to make some decisions, and ultimately they folded. So Front Row Motorsports now, they got that Tier 1 status. They've got all the support they could possibly need, and now they are expanding. Remember, this is a team that used to be back markers, and since this was a team that might show up at a super speedway and contend for a win. Of course, they won that 2013 Talladega Spring Race with David Reagan, but other than that, you didn't really see much of them. You never really saw competitiveness. You might see the occasional one-off, like I think John Hunter Nemechek had a top 10 a couple years ago when he was in the 38, but other than that, not a super competitive team in terms of the front of the field. But the last few years, that has changed. And the first big moment was the 2021 Daytona 500 when Michael McDowell won that race. As I said, the super speedways, that was their chance to shine. That was their chance to lead laps, compete for wins, to have competitive results. And the Daytona 500 in 2021 is really what started the rise of Front Row Motorsports in a sense. They win the Daytona 500. They make it into the playoffs. They are showing that while, yes, they still need to improve on the intermediates and the short tracks, but they had a little bit of speed at the road courses with McDowell, but they were starting to trend forward. And then the next gen car shows up. McDowell does great. Todd Gilliland, he's learning, he's coming along, and we'll talk about him here in a minute. But Michael McDowell has been the standout star for Front Row Motorsports. Last year, he made the playoffs off of a win at Indianapolis, but even I think without the win at Indianapolis, I think he might have pointed his way in. If not, he was one spot out. He was top 17 in points all season long last year, which is a huge deal for that team. And then, as I said, this year, promoted to the Tier 1 status. And while they sit 22nd and 23rd in the points, that really doesn't reflect their season. Michael McDowell leads the league in DNFs this year. If it wasn't for, going from 1st to 33rd at Talladega on the last 1,000 feet, if it wasn't for some pit road issues or penalties for Todd Gilliland at Darlington, he would have had a top 15 there. Both teams have had separate issues, separate bad luck. They could very well be in the top 20 in points right now. And as I said, they are still in the process of growing. They have not fully grown yet. They are not quite to that level where they are consistently competing for wins, consistently being in the top 10, but they are getting to that point. There's a lot to be excited about in the future if you are a Front Row Motorsports fan. But what is the future of Front Row Motorsports? Unlike Stewart-Haas Racing, we know there's going to be a future, first of all, but like Stewart-Haas Racing, there's a little bit of uncertainty with the future. The uncertainty for Stewart-Haas Racing was, will it exist in a year's time? Front Row, as I said, we know that. But the uncertainty for Front Row is who's driving for Front Row Motorsports? Who's going to be driving these cars? It's a really good question, honestly. Technically, all 3 seats are open right now. Todd Gilliland, he's in an option year, but I would expect them to sign Todd Gilliland to an extension, so I expect him to stay in the 38 car, but that still leaves 2 spots open. Who goes to those cars? And I look immediately at Stewart-Haas Racing. Stewart-Haas Racing, they have 6 drivers, and all of a sudden, all 6 of them are free agents. We look at the Xfinity side. Riley Herbst, he has a connection with Front Row. He has run a part-time schedule with them. He's run a couple of one-offs, I guess. That's a better way to put it, with them at the super speedways. So he has experience at Front Row. He's actually been pretty good at Front Row when he's been in that 36 at the super speedways. Cole Custer, an Xfinity Series champion. We look at the Cup Series side. We have Josh Berry, Noah Gragson, Ryan Preece, and Chase Briscoe. Now, a lot of rumors and reports have tied Chase Briscoe to the 21 car, so I'm going to take him out of this conversation. But what about those other 5 guys? Who do I think will be in those cars? And it's a tough guess. Right now, I don't think it'll be Preece. Sorry, Ryan Preece fans, but I think it's down to those other drivers. I think it's down to Gragson, Berry, Herbst, and Custer. Herbst, as I said, has experience with Front Row, has funding, Monster Energy. Cole Custer, an Xfinity Series champion. Josh Berry, Noah Gragson are both very talented drivers. Gragson has some funding from Bass Pro Shops and whatnot. So who would you put in the car? And the way that things are going with rumors and whatnot, it seems like Custer might have a shot. It seems like Berry, I mean, as I said, it could be any one of those guys, but I would say it's between, for the 2 seats, I'd say Berry and Custer right now are the favorites. I would say nothing against the other 2. It's just that from what I've read, it seems like it's going to be those 2, so I would not be shocked. But once again, any of those 4 drivers from the Ford camp could go into that seat, whether it's Custer, whether it's Berry, Gragson, or Herbst. But right now, I would lean towards Custer and Berry going to Front Row. Remember, Michael McDowell, who we just talked about, who's kind of been a big part of this rise, he's going to Spire next year on a multi-year deal. But as for the Ford side of things, this is a big deal for Ford because think about it. NASCAR at times is about numbers. The numbers you have as a manufacturer at Daytona, Talladega, but also just, you know, for more information, for more data sharing between teams. The more numbers you have, the more it helps. Stewart-Haas Racing shutting down, that's 4 Cup Series teams, 4 data points completely vanishing, completely going away. And Front Row, now that they are an elevated team at Ford, the opportunity struck for them to expand, and Ford did not want to lose all 4 of those cars. They did not want to lose all those numbers. So it makes complete sense on the Ford end to support, to, you know, say, hey, Front Row, if you expand, if you get a 3rd team, we will support you. So once again, it makes a lot of sense from a lot of different perspectives, but Front Row Motorsports, think about their journey. We talked about it a little bit from back markers in a sense, you know, not running that great, even sometimes mid-pack, but they get that win at Talladega in 2013, and they go a long time without winning. They go until the 2021 Daytona 500, or, well, actually, no, I forgot. Prosper, Texas' own Chris Buescher, 2016 Pocono, the fog-shortened race. How could I forget about that? But then after that, then there was a long gap between winning 2021, the Daytona 500, the biggest possible win. And since then, their stock has been like this, just growing, going up. And it's where we are now. They're a Tier 1 Ford team. They have 3 cars, but they do have to fill those seats. And they've got some good options out there. As I said, Josh Berry, Noah Gragson, very talented guys, have proven themselves this year. Even if Chase Briscoe were to not go to Wood Brothers, you know, he'd be a great option for Front Row Motorsports. But even the Xfinity guys, you know, Riley Herbst, I know a lot of people give him crap because of money, whatnot, but I really think that Riley Herbst has proven himself the last year or year and a half, and he's shown that he's a talented driver. He's a good driver, and I think if he gets an opportunity, I think it's deserved. And then obviously Cole Custer, an Xfinity Series champion. He got demoted from Cup, but once again has been proving himself in Xfinity, being competitive, winning races, winning a championship. So it's it's a big opportunity for those guys if they were to get to the Cup Series with Front Row Motorsports. But whoever gets it, that is Front Row Motorsports is now a deserved or a desired seat in the NASCAR Cup Series. They have obtained a charter. They have 3 cars. Technically, they have 3 openings. So it'll be exciting to see who they end up signing with in terms of a driver, in terms of a number sponsor. They've had a 36 car before, a 35 car before. So I'm excited to see what happens. But Front Row Motorsports is expanding. More charter news to come, I'm sure. I don't know when, but the reports are saying 2311 and Trackhouse. They're both going to get one apiece, and then that 4th one is up in the air. Nobody really knows. It could go, we don't know. But thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Fun times in the NASCAR world. I always love a busy news day, so keeps me busy. But thanks for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As I said, any other charter news, I will let you know. Any other news at all. It's been a busy news week. We got a few races this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. Have a good rest of your day.